Yo, what's going on, guys? This is SoulStriker. Welcome to a new plugin tutorial. Today we're actually doing it on a updated tutorial of Group Manager. My latest one was about 2 years ago. I got a lot of questions on that one, so I decided to do an updated one for you guys and just show you some of the recent stuff with your latest versions of Minecraft, for example 1.10 and 1.11, because there's been a few changes with the plugin, not really any of the commands, but the plugin itself, just get it working on your latest versions of Minecraft. So before I get into the tutorial, just wanted to mention a few things that you must need to do. So that didn't make any sense, but anyways, in the description there'll be several links in the description. First link will be Group Manager, a link to Group Manager on Spigot that will work for your latest versions of Minecraft. For example, 1.9, 1.10, and 1.11. Because if you downloaded like a earlier version of Group Manager, it won't work for your updated version. So that link will be down in the description, so you guys need to go download that. Second thing is, when you're running Group Manager, it hooks onto Essentials X, or your Essentials Snapshot, depending on what you're using for your server. But you must have Essentials, specifically Essentials Chat, in order for your prefixes to work, because I got a ton of questions on my other video asking, hey, my prefixes don't work, I can't show them in chat, and just a whole bunch of questions asking me about that. And so you must have essentials chat.jar in order for prefixes to show. And if you don't have essentials chat, just go ahead and download them. Link will be down in the description. There's going to be a full list of essentials and Essentials X if you guys have that on your server. So make sure you have either Essentials X or Essentials Snapshot, depending on your server version. If you're running a 1.7, they'll be a little bit different, but I will have all the links in the description depending on your server version. Make sure you go download those depending on what kind of server version you're running. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to mention at the very beginning. Make sure you got those two plugins, Group Manager and Essentials, and drop them in your plugins folder, restart your server, and you're pretty much set. So when I first load Group Manager, very first thing I like to do is do /list groups, and then just list all the default groups that started when the Group Manager first loads. So as you see, we have several groups that have loaded. We have owner, default, moderator, builder, and admin. So for me personally, I like to go ahead and delete them with manger and then the group name. So owner, and then you can't delete the default group because it's default, and then we'll do delete moderator, and we'll go ahead and delete builder, and then we'll delete admin. So go ahead and delete those. So now if we do list groups again, as you see, we just have one group left, which is default. And the default group, when a player first joins your server, they will automatically be put into this default group. So what I like to do for my server is I like to leave that default group. You can change it, but it's sort of complicated, but I just like to leave it as simple as you guys so you can understand. So what I like to do is I like to add permissions and prefixes and everything to my default group. That way, when a player first joins, they'll automatically have all those permission nodes, and they'll be ready to get kits. They can go raid or whatever type of server you have. So that's what I like to do, so that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So the default group, as I said, everyone gets put into that default group when they first join the server, so you don't have to actually add them to a group when they first join. They'll automatically be put into that group. Alright, so we have moved on to a split screen. I know it looks a little bit weird, but it's the best way I can show you guys how all these permission nodes and prefixes and everything works. So as I said, when you're adding permission nodes, I like to add them to my default users. So on my alt over here, as you see, I'm already in the default group because there are no other groups to be put in. So as you see, if I try to break some stuff, as you see on the screen is popping up an error message saying I'm not permitted to interact with pretty much anything that I'm trying to touch or break. I can't pick up anything, I can't break anything. Basically, I can just walk around and do nothing. So that is a problem that happens when players first join. So now I'm going to show you guys how to add permission nodes to your players. So for my group default, main command is main add and then P stands for the permission node, and then what's next space you want to do is the group name. So as you see right here, my groups are default, so go ahead and main add P default and then the permission node. Permission node is basically on any plugin. 95% of the times plugins will have permission nodes that you can add to your user. So for this, I'm going to be using Essentials because Essentials has most of all the permission nodes that you want. There will be a link in the description for all the permission nodes with Essentials, so make sure you guys go check that out. So when you're using Essentials and you have this error message that you said I am not permitted to interact with the whatever, what you want to do, this is the permission node that you need to add to any of your groups. So it is called essentials.build. And when you add that essentials.build to your users, now if we go up on my alt account, I can actually interact and break stuff and pick up things and place things on the ground. So that is what you need to add permission node to every single group that you create, and I'll show you guys how to create groups in a little bit. So that is how to add permission nodes. So since we have the default group still, we want to add a prefix and maybe a few other permission nodes. So if we do a /help, these are all the permission nodes that we have. We just have access to help OP, list, MOTD, rules, and spawn. So say we want our default group to have access to /messages. As you see, I have no access to /messages, and TPA. We want them to have both of those. So using Essentials, we're gonna do the same thing. So Essentials, so we'll do Essentials.message, and if we so this link will be down in the description. As I said, this is all the permission nodes that you need. So the permission nodes is like essentials.time and stuff. So we want to add a message. So if we come down here, I know most of the permission nodes, but I just wanted to show you guys. So we want to add essentials.message, and that allows access to the /message command. So what we want to do is go back and essentials.message to our default group, and we'll go ahead and enter that, and now we have added essentials.message to our group. So now we want TPA as well, so we'll do TPA. So essentials.tpa, we'll add that to our group default as well, because that's what we want them to have. And we also want them to have access to accept the TPA request and deny it. So for example, if we TPA to my alt right now, if we TPA accept, as you see, we don't have access to that command. So we also need to add TPA accept to that. So we'll just go ahead and copy that and over here, and then we'll just paste it in here. Make sure go ahead and copy and paste it, and we added essentials accept, and then we also want to add TP deny as well. So TPA deny, and then we'll have access to TPA deny. When you're adding permission nodes, something that I like to do is always man save, and that just saves your settings with your group manager. So that's what I always like to do. You don't have to do it, but I prefer doing /man save because it just like loads it up basically. So that is how you add permission nodes. So since we're in the default group and we talk, as you see, we have no prefix or anything in chat. But if we do /help, we have access to TPA and help2 and TPA accept, and that is pretty awesome. So that's how you add permission nodes. So now I'm going to show you guys how to add a prefix. So since we're still working with our group default, what you want to do is main add v. The v stands for variable. Basically, the variable means that you can add a suffix or a prefix. So main add v, and then the group, which is default, and then we want to add a prefix. So a prefix is before the player's name, a suffix is after. You see a lot of suffixes used on prison servers and just like the different ranks and stuff. So I'm going to be adding a prefix, and then now you can type in the color codes you want. So I'm actually going to use gray brackets, and then we'll go member. There we go. Go ahead and enter that. Hit enter, and as you see, a variable prefix has been added to group default. So now if we talk in chat, as you see, we have the member group default, which is pretty awesome. And if you don't want the player's name to also be in the same bracket color, you can just add you can just do an R, and it will just make it white again. So you can add like a different color. So say if you want it like yellow or something, and we'll go ahead and space it out, and we'll talk in chat. As you see, we have spaced it out so it's not quite in the brackets, and then we have a yellow name, so you can space it out if you want. It just looks a little bit better when it's spaced out like that. So that is how you add a prefix to your players, and that is how you add permission nodes. So say we want to create more groups. You can create unlimited groups as you want. So I'm going to make like a donator group, so I'm going to call it VIP. So to make a group, what you want to do is Ming add, and then the group that you want it to be called. So I'm going to call this VIP. So go ahead and create group VIP. So now, since we want to add permission nodes to our VIPs, for example, like kids, like special kids, or access to fly or something along those lines, so we can add the same thing. Make sure you add the right permission nodes. So here's something that comes in really handy. It's called an inheritance. So as you saw, all these permission nodes that we added to our default user, so example like TPA and message, we want all our groups that we will create in the future to have access to all those permission nodes. That way we don't have to add every single one of those permission nodes to every new group that we have. So it is called an inheritance. So basically what you want to do is Ming add I, stands for inheritance, the group that you created or want the group to inherit from the other group. So we want VIP to inherit all the permission nodes from our default user. So go ahead and enter that. So now our group default is now in the VIP inheritance list, which is what we want. So now we can also add permission nodes to specifically VIP. So Ming add P, VIP, and then what we want. So we want them to have access to essentials.fly. So that just allows them to have access to essentials.fly, and as well as kits. So if you want them to be able to access kits, you can do essentials.kit. That will have access to the kit command, and then I'll show you guys how to add a player. So man u add, and then the U stands for user, add, and then the player's name, and then the group that you want them to be in. So we'll add it to VIP. So now if you come over here, talk and chat, we haven't added any prefix or anything to our VIP group yet. So now if we do /help, as you see, we have all the commands from default user and the ones we just added. So we now have access to fly, so we can fly around, which is pretty sweet. And then we also have the kit command, but as you see, we have no available kits yet. If we do /kits on my other account, which is off, we have all those kits as you see in chat. So we want to add kit D tools to our VIP users. So what you want to do is, after we added the essentials.kit, you do essentials.kits dot and then the kit name. So D tools, that will have access to kit D tools. So if we go ahead and save that, man save, and if we do kits over here, as you see, we have access to kit D tools. Go ahead and get that, and boom, we have access to D tools, which is pretty awesome. So that is how you add that. And then now we want to add like the same thing we did with the prefix. So we want to add a prefix to our VIP users. So Ming add V, and then the group VIP, and then prefix. And then I'm actually gonna put this as like we'll actually do gold brackets, and then we'll put yellow and bold. Keep in mind you can use any color codes you want. And then we'll do VIP, and then we'll close it off with brackets, and then we'll put a space, and then we'll make the name green. So now if we talk in chat, as you see, oops, I missed the and mark. There we go. Now if you talk in chat, as you see, we have closed the brackets and we have a username as green. So that is how you add a prefix to basically any groups. Pretty simple. If you guys want to add a suffix, it's basically the same thing, except change the prefix to suffix, and then you can change the color codes as well. So I'm gonna actually put in like we'll put newbie. We'll put a newbie suffix. So go ahead and we'll do that. And then if we talk in chat again, as you see, we now have a suffix. And we have awesome newbie prefix tag in chat. So that is how you do that. So another helpful thing that I want to mention to you guys Next thing I will show you guys is how to add a subgroup. So basically, the easiest way to explain it is to show you guys. So what you want to do is main add and then a helper. So I'm just gonna create a helper group real quick. You guys don't have to do this. This is just me showing you how this would work. So main add I and then helper default group. So as you see, we have created a staff group called helper. So say we have a helper on our server and he wants to donate for our VIP because it has really cool perks and abilities and just like really cool cosmetics, I guess. So he wants to donate, but we want our staff member, our helper group, to have a helper prefix in chat so everyone knows that he's a helper and not a VIP, because we want him to be able to have access to all the VIP cosmetics and kits and all the special abilities because he donated it, but we still want him to have all the staff perks, all the staff commands, and we still want him to be able to have the helper prefix in chat. So to do that, basically what you want to do is add a subgroup to that specific user because he donated. So to do that is menu add sub and then the player's name. So say SoulReaper is our staff member, so we enter the player's name and then the group we want him to be inherited from. So it's basically the same thing as an inheritance, but it's a little bit different. So since we want him to be in that group, so we'll do menu add. This is how to add a player, by the way. I already showed you guys, but just a review. And then we want him to be in the helper group, so go ahead and save that. So now since he is in the helper group, we want him to have all the cool kits and permission nodes and all the cool cosmetics from that. So it's menu add and then sub. So basically the U stands for user, add, and then the subgroup, and then the player's name, and then the group that you want him to be inherited from. So as I said, we still want him to be in the helper group because he is a helper, but he donated for all the VIP kits and cosmetics and all the cool abilities for VIP. So since he is donated for VIP, we'll go ahead and enter the group VIP, and now he has a subgroup. So now he has all the permission nodes from VIP, but he is still in the helper group. And that's a really awesome feature that you can add. I use it on my servers all the time, and it's just super helpful. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I will definitely help you guys out because I know starting out can be quite confusing. But just leave comments and questions down below in the comment section, as I said, and I'll get back to you. Make sure you guys have essentials if you're using Group Manager and everything. All the links will be down in the description, so make sure you guys go check that out. And I will see you guys next time. Have a beautiful day. See you guys next time.